This is the scary story about the berries. There were two friends named Ed and Chris who were going for a walk in the woods one day. They had been walking for hours. Ed then came across a berry bush and said, "Chris, let's eat these, I'm hungry." Chris looked at him and said, "No, they are probably poisonous." Ed said, "No, they're not, you're just paranoid," and took a handful and ate them. Chris laughed and kept walking. But about 30 minutes later, Ed started to tell Chris he wasn't feeling too good. Chris looked at him and said, "Stop joking." But right when he said that, Ed collapsed to the ground. Chris then ran over to Ed. Ed's eyes were bloodshot and his face was twisted. Ed was dead. Chris couldn't believe it. He couldn't even call for help because he did not bring a phone with him. Chris then ran home as fast as he could and told his parents what just happened. They then called the cops. When the cops arrived, Chris led them to Ed's body. It turned out Ed ate very poisonous berries and he died. Chris felt sick to his stomach because he was just a second away from eating those berries too. This is the scary story about the pictures. There was a woman who loved taking pictures with her camera. One day she was taking pictures at a park when a very strange man began yelling at her, saying, "Don't take pictures of me." The woman said she wasn't, but the man did not believe her. She then said sorry and walked away. Later that night, she was taking a shower. When she stepped out of the shower, her heart skipped a beat. On her mirror was a picture of her in the shower and "Don't take pictures of me" written on it. Then there was another photo on her bathroom door of her stepping out of her car and "Don't take pictures of me" written on it. She then began to panic and opened the bathroom door to get her clothes and leave. But when she opened the door, the man who yelled at her at the park was sitting on her bed with a knife in his hand. He then tackled her and held her to the ground. The man then stabbed the girl in both of her eyes and ripped them out. As the girl laid there screaming on the ground, the man then said to her, "No more pictures for you."
Most disturbing videos in the world, episode 6. This picture contains a list of disturbing videos from the least scary to the most. This will be my scariest series ever. Welcome to tier 7 because we skipped a couple of them. And honestly today, we're gonna skip directly to tier 10. The first video is titled Funky Town. This video single-handedly could be the worst video the internet has ever had. Now obviously I can't show the video here, but I can tell you everything you need to know about it. And please remember, don't look this up. Trust me. It shows a man, getting executed, in which they remove the man's face all while he's still alive. And lots of other stuff start happening. And in the background of the video, the song Funky Town starts playing. You know this song? Yeah, that one. Make sure to like and follow because I start my brand new series tomorrow. Dark web videos you were never supposed to see, part 4. Tonight's video is called 11BX1371. I'll play the video at the end. This video is probably one of the most well-known deep web videos, but I guarantee you don't know what's actually happening behind the screen. So let's be quick. This video was sent to a tech company and inside the envelope was a CD that had a written message on it. While watching this video, you'll hear the audio is very distorted. So people actually took the audio, ran it through something called a spectrogram to see what was happening within the audio. Turns out there's a secret message that said you're already dead. They kept finding hidden audio messages time and time again until one Reddit user found a hidden message in the actual video. That video actually turned out to be a woman who was cut into pieces, but you can't see it with a naked eye. They finally solved the puzzle after months, but nobody knows why this message was sent or even what the purpose was. So without further ado, I'm showing the video now. Enjoy.
This is the scary story about the screaming parents. There was a young boy named Chris who was in his room late one night when he suddenly heard his parents screaming. He then jumped out of bed and went over to his bedroom door, but suddenly stopped. Chris was too scared to open the door and didn't know what to expect. His parents were still screaming. Then suddenly the screaming stopped. Chris then opened his door and went to his parents' bedroom. When he got there, he froze in horror at what he saw. On the bed laid both of his parents dead, with their dog completely mutilating their throats. The dog then stopped and turned his head to look at Chris, its fur completely covered in blood, and had a fountain of blood dripping from its mouth. These are the creepiest things found in people's houses, part 1. Up first, a married couple moved into a new house when they decided to rip up the carpet and get a new one. But what they found underneath the carpet is absolutely terrifying. Underneath the carpet was a pentagram, which is a symbol of the devil and devil worshippers. This is extremely scary because the previous homeowners were definitely doing satanic rituals. Next up, a homeowner decided to move a mirror in his house when he discovered a camera behind it. There was a specific hole cut in the wall for the camera to fit, making you think whoever put it there did it to spy on the people living in the house. This is so chilling and disturbing, I would immediately move out. This is the scary story about the bathroom mirror. There was a man taking a shower in his bathroom. He was about to reach out of the shower for his towel when he saw something in the bathroom mirror. It was a strange shadow, and every time he laid eyes on it, it darted out of his vision. The man then stared at the mirror for a while, trying to figure out what he just saw. When he began to dry himself off, out of the corner of his eye, he saw another shadow flickering past in the mirror. He then walked towards the mirror and put his hand against the glass and began rubbing it. When his wife got home later that night, he was nowhere to be found. She searched the house from top to bottom, screaming her husband's name, but she couldn't find him, and she began to get very worried. The only trace she could find of him was a wet towel on the bathroom floor. She then called the police and reported her husband missing. 2 days later, the man's wife disappeared also. Her clothes were on her bedroom floor, and the shower was still running. It was like she vanished into thin air. The police then found a handprint on the mirror. Neither the man nor his wife have been seen since.
This is the true story of the Skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are warlocks with the ability to shapeshift and become animals or people. They can not only take your appearance but also clone your voice perfectly. The biggest Skinwalker sightings have been in Ohio and Arizona, but they are found all over the world. The preferred form of Skinwalkers is that of your pet. They take the form of your pet and enter your home and try to act like your pet to gain your trust, and then they can take your life. Watch how in this video the boy realizes that his dog is a Skinwalker.
Let me see. I'll know if she's my dog. Merlin, sit. Turn around. Turn around. Lay down. You're not my dog. My dog don't know how to do no fucking trick. The fuck? Call 911. Hey! Somebody!
Scary facts about North Korea, Part 3. North Korea has a fake propaganda village that was built to look like a peaceful place, so people from South Korea will come up to North Korea. But in reality, the village is completely empty. All the buildings have no windows, and all the lights that come on are set on automatic timers. The only people that are ever here are just maintenance workers. North Korea's most popular attraction is visiting Kim Jong-il's preserved body. North Korea tells their citizens that this man has godlike abilities and that they must pray to him. Right now, as we speak, North Korea has closed down their capital and are executing citizens to stop the spread of COVID-19. This is super disturbing, and I feel bad for everybody living in this country.
Here's the true story about how a horror movie saved a guy's life. On a Thursday night at around 4 a.m., a guy wanted to continue watching his horror movies and not go to sleep. He stayed up all night watching 3 different movies, and he was on his 4th one now. He said he told himself that after the 4th movie was done, he was going to go to sleep since it was 4 a.m. While watching the movie, he heard a shovel clink. He ignored it thinking it was something to do with the thunderstorm outside, but then it did it again. So he's freaking out, but he decides to open his window to peek outside to see if maybe he can see something. As he peeked his head outside the window, he saw the lightning flash, and he ended up seeing a man very similar to this. He said that when the lightning flashed, all he could see that it was clearly a man and it was completely pitch black. He starts walking downstairs to his father to wake him up and tell him there's a man outside, and then he turns around. When he turned around, the man was staring at him and hitting his window with the shovel. The crazy thing is when they called the police said there was no sign of intruder. Make sure to like and follow. Here's why you should always lock your front door. 2 police officers were riding in a car when suddenly they got an emergency call. The call said that there was a woman who said that somebody broke into her house, and mid-conversation, it just stopped. Pretty much the girl just stopped speaking on the call with the dispatch. So the officers took that as, okay, something is happening with this girl. So the officers begin speeding to this woman's house. They end up pulling up to the house and the window is broken. So the officers start thinking, okay, we gotta get in there now. Because they're hoping that the woman who called isn't dead or being hurt. So both of the officers enter the house. One of the officers says, I'm gonna check the room on the left, and then the other officer said, I'm gonna check the room on the right. So the officer on the right sees a closet and he sees just 2 eyes poking out of it. The officer clearly sees that the woman is bleeding. He says, you can come out now, it's safe. While he's talking to this woman in the closet, you hear the other officer say, I found her, she's safe. So the other officer starts freaking out because he doesn't know who he's talking to. He opens the door and sees that nobody's there. Make sure to follow if you guys want more.
These are scary reasons why you should never use Siri. Up first, Siri is always listening. Everything you say alone in your room, or any private conversation that you had, Siri definitely heard it, and probably stored it in some sort of data file. Next up, Siri can recognize your voice and your face. This means that Siri knows every little detail about you and your appearance. This is extremely terrifying because nobody has any idea this is what's going on.
This is why you should never call your own number.
So this is a creepypasta that I heard that is definitely really creepy. They say that you should never answer your phone if it's your own number calling you, because once you do, the game begins and you can't get out of it. So if you ignore the call, you're totally fine. But some people are curious and need to know who's on the other end. Basically, if you answer it, whatever you say into the phone, your own voice will say back to you. So if you say, "Hi, who is this?" you'll hear, "Hi, who is this?" But what you don't know is that as long as you stay on the phone, your doppelganger is coming for you. It can track your location as long as you're speaking to it. So there are stories on the internet about people's doppelgangers arriving at their front door or peering through their bedroom windows. And basically your doppelganger wants to take over your life. This kind of reminds me of the movie Us. Anybody else? And no one will know you are gone when they replace you. So don't call your own number, don't answer it either.
This is why you should never sleep over your friend's house. One day, a boy named Jonah was at school when his friend Tyler invited him to sleep over later that day. Jonah happily agreed and he couldn't wait. Later after school, Jonah went over Tyler's with all of his stuff. They then played games and ate snacks all night, and finally went to bed. But in the middle of the night, Jonah woke up to Tyler's family carrying him down the stairs. Jonah began freaking out, but Tyler looked at him and said, "It's okay, Jonah. I promise it'll be over quick." They then tied Jonah to a small table. Tyler's dad then said, "We've been waiting a long time for a fresh kill like yourself, Jonah." Tyler, his dad, and mom then jumped on Jonah and began eating him alive. Jonah's screams slowly faded as Tyler's family ripped him apart.
Here's how much different items cost on the dark web. Up first is a hitman. You can order it on literally anyone, and it only costs $10,000. Next, if you want to make someone disappear off the face of the earth, and I mean disappear without a trace with no chance of being found, this will cost you a hefty $60,000. Now you can actually order a fully trained silverback gorilla to protect you. If your dog doesn't protect you, believe me, these gorillas will do the trick. This will run you $400,000. It's highly illegal, but no one will mess with you if you have this gorilla.
This is why you should always sleep with a lamp on. A woman named Katie drove home from a long day of work. She puts her keys down and begins cooking dinner. She sits down, eats her dinner, and begins watching a late night TV show. She watches the show for a few hours, realizes what time it is, and begins to go to bed. She walks through the hallway and turns her light off. She feels like she just saw something behind her and turns the lights back on. She realizes something is there, goes into her room, and immediately gets under the covers. Her lights start flashing, and then it gets quiet. She peeks her head outside from the covers. Send this video to a friend to see if they can make it all the way to the end. If you guys want to see more stories like this, make sure to like and follow. This is why you should never put your address online. One day, a single dad was talking to his son named Colby. Colby insisted before bed that his dad read him a scary bedtime story. The dad agrees and begins saying there once was a kid who played with a guy named Helper23. Helper23 and the boy played video games for hours and hours every night. The boy's birthday was coming up, so Helper23 wanted to get him a birthday gift in real life. The boy, excited, gives Helper23 his address. A couple weeks go by and the boy feels guilty for giving this man his address, so he calls for his dad in the room. He yells, "Dad," but no answer. He goes out looking for his dad and finds his dad hung in the garage and then looks behind him. He sees a man wearing all black smiling at him, and then he hears the baby crying. The mysterious man walks over to the baby's crib, picks up the baby, and then kills the boy. The son, looking confused, says, "Dad, why did the guy take the baby?" The dad looks at him and says, "I always wanted to be a father." Going to the dark web, part 4. Okay, this one's probably gonna be one of the craziest ones I've ever done. You're probably wanting to know what that is. Pretty much this website, nobody understands what it is. All they know is that for some reason, it's used by spies and governments, and they're able to communicate different messages. They speak in different languages, and exactly what you're hearing now. If you have any idea what this is, please let me know. It's really scary, and what's the scariest part about it is this. This changes. So you know when you're watching a YouTube video, see how it's changing? That means somebody is changing this real time. There's a video loading, but I'm running out of time. Go to my Instagram to watch the full video. The scariest Instagram post ever made. We all have used Instagram before, whether it's DMing our crush or liking a picture. But what about the posts that go unseen? And when I mean unseen for years. Today we're gonna be looking at the Instagram account NVGK. A follower sent me this Instagram account, and when I clicked on the profile, I was beyond shocked. I click on the profile and I see 3 pictures. The first picture is a man in a gas mask, and we can see it was posted in 2016. The second picture was posted on the same day as the first picture in 2016. And I click on the third picture, and that picture was posted today. And if we look at the caption, we can see a ridiculous amount of numbers. Well, I was able to decrypt these numbers, and you won't believe what the message says. June 20 is the day of reckoning. The fire will light up the abyss to free the damned souls for eternity. June 20 is the day of freedom. And right now it's June 15th at the time of posting this video. Make sure to like and follow so I can keep you updated. I'm very curious as to what's going to happen next with this Instagram account. This is why you should always keep your phone charged. A girl named Marissa came home from school at around 3 p.m. She walked in the door and told her mom that some random number kept calling her all day. Her mom told her the person may have the wrong number and just to ignore it. Marissa said okay and begins to do her homework. A couple hours later, she receives a phone call from the same number. Marissa answers at this time and says, "Hello?" The man then says, "We finally found you. Don't worry, bunny." Marissa begins to panic and tells her mom what just happened. Her mom's face goes blank and says, "What did the man just call you?" Marissa says, "He called me bunny." Her mom yells and says, "Grab your stuff, we need to leave." Marissa, confused, packs her things and gets into the red car. Her mom begins driving fast and turns on the radio. The radio says, "The baby named Marissa who was kidnapped in the hospital 10 years ago has been found and police are searching for a red car." Marissa looks at the woman and says, "Who are you?" The woman looks back and says, "You can call me mommy."
This is the disturbing lost episode of Tom and Jerry. The episode was called Tom's Basement. The episode opened up with Tom in a typical Tom and Jerry house. Tom's owner seemed very angry. In his first scene, he is stomping on Tom's tail in a very realistic and painful way because Tom was sleeping in front of the basement door. The owner then yells at Tom to never go down there. Tom is seen to be very terrified and runs away. Jerry then tricks Tom into chasing him to the basement door a few times, and each time the owner caught him and beat him. But the final time the owner caught Tom, the camera zooms in on Tom's face while he is getting beaten, and you can hear the owner screaming curse words and very hurtful things at him. Jerry then feels bad for Tom and gets a knife and stabs the owner to death. Tom and Jerry then carry the owner's body down into the basement. Jerry then gets the knife again and stabs Tom to death, leaving his body in the basement with the owner. And the episode ends with Jerry putting a for sale sign in the front yard of the house while laughing. These are scary what if thoughts that will keep you up at night, part 3. What if the person that we see in the mirror is actually from a different dimension, and the reason that we cannot enter it is because every time that we try and go through it, our other self stops us? Next up, what if the phobias that people have are based on how they died in the past? Maybe that's why we are afraid to do things that we never tried, because it's already how we died. Finally, what if there are multiple souls in your body, but you're the most powerful one, so you have control over your body, and the voices in your head are actually just the weaker souls trying to talk to you? This is the scary story about the eyes. There was a man named Jim who was at the store one day when a middle-aged woman tapped him on the shoulder and said, "I can't help but notice your beautiful eyes." Jim smiled and said thank you. The woman then smiled back and asked for his number, which Jim gladly gave to her. Later that night, Jim received a text message from the woman to come over. Jim said, "I'll be right there." He then got up and went over. When he got there, he knocked on the door, and the woman then answered. She then welcomed Jim into her house and said, "Follow me." Jim then followed her to a room that was pitch black, but when the woman turned on the lights, Jim stood there in fear. In the room were shelves filled with hundreds of human eyeballs. He then heard the woman say from behind him, "I really like your eyes." Jim then felt something hit the back of his head and everything went black. When Jim woke up, everything was still black. He began screaming, but then he heard the woman's voice say, "There's no need to scream. Your eyes are never coming back."
This is a scary story about the boyfriend.
There was this boy named Sam who was obsessed with this girl, Katie. But Katie had a boyfriend and gave Sam no attention. This really rubbed Sam the wrong way and got him mad. One night, Sam went over to Katie's boyfriend's house and knocked on the door. Katie's boyfriend answered the door, and almost immediately, Sam jumped on him and took a knife out of his pocket. Sam then grabbed a box and Katie's boyfriend's phone and left. He then texted Katie on her boyfriend's phone saying that he was here. Katie texted back saying, "Okay, I'm coming." When Katie opened her front door, she saw a box. She picked it up and opened it and froze in complete horror. Inside the box was her boyfriend's severed head and a note that said, "Do you want to give me a chance now, Sam?"
This is the creepy story about the eye.
There was a girl named Kate who was in school.
Throughout the whole day, her eye was very itchy, and no matter how much she itched it, it didn't help one bit. Kate thought it was her allergies, but she wasn't sure.
Then suddenly, she felt a very sharp pain in her eye. She then texted her mom saying,
"Can I get out of school?
"My eye is very itchy and it hurts,"
Her mom said no,
and told her to go to the nurse and get some eye drops. When Kate got to the nurse's office,
she told the nurse about her eye,
and the nurse then looked at it.
and what she saw made her panic.
Kate had a bed bug in her eye, biting it repeatedly.
The nurse then called an ambulance,
And Kate was rushed to the hospital.
when they got there,
The doctors managed to get the bed bug out of her eye.
but Kate's eye was badly damaged, and the doctor said they have to remove it.
Kate then got her eye removed, and the doctor said she was super lucky that the bed bug did not go into her brain.
This is the creepy story about the woman on the bench.
There was a girl named Becky who always stayed up late every night.
She didn't know why, but she enjoyed it. One late night, she decided to go for a walk.
She then came up to a bench where an old woman was sitting.
Becky was feeling outgoing, so she sat down next to the woman. She began talking to the woman, but she never answered. Becky kept trying to talk to her, but the woman was just ignoring her and looking straight ahead. Becky then got annoyed and then got up and went home.
When Becky woke up the next day,
It was around 2 in the afternoon.
she then decided to go for another walk.
When she saw the same old woman still sitting on the same bench from last night, with police cars and ambulances surrounding her.
Becky then ran home and checked the news.
They said an old woman had been murdered the night before while sitting on a park bench. Becky's stomach dropped
When she realized last night she was trying to talk to a dead woman.
and just missed being murdered by minutes. This is the scary story about the homeowner.
One day a young man was doing some yard work for a little extra money.
When he noticed a homeowner watching him from the window. Now this wasn't weird at all, but what was weird though was how every time the young man looked up at the homeowner just disappeared. The young man started to get annoyed
So he decided to knock on the front door.
and asked the homeowner, "Why you keep looking at me?"
He knocked, but no one answered.
He kept knocking and knocking, but nobody answered. There was a person walking by and she said,
"Hey kid, what are you doing?"
the young man said, "I'm doing this person's yard work and they keep looking at me through the window." "That's impossible," said the woman.
The lady who lived there died years ago and nobody moved in ever since. The young man then got a chill down his spine.
As the woman who was walking walked away,
He turned around and saw the creepy woman in the window waving at him.
these are scary apps that you should never download.
Up first is the Death Alert app.
This app contains a database of a lot of people, and when one of them dies,
You get an alert where your phone will literally scream at you.
you will then be shown the dead person's name, age, and cause of death.
What's super creepy is when a person dies, your phone's background automatically changes to a childhood picture of them. Next is the Girls Around Me app.
This app allows you to view the location of women.
On a map and see all their public info and photographs.
This app is super disturbing.
And it's technically spying on girls. Finally is the app Creepy
This app allows you to locate anybody you want,
in the world. So if you have anybody on your bad side,
and you don't want them to find you,
do not tell them about this app.
So The Conjuring is one of my favorite all-time series, and I want to go over exactly how you should watch it in exact order on top of rating all of the movies 1 through 10. So the first movie is The Nun, the first Nun, taking place in 1952, and this movie is actually terrifying. I don't want to give any spoilers away from any of these movies, so if you guys want full breakdowns, comment down below, but this movie gets an 8 out of 10. It was amazing. Up next is Annabelle Creations, and this movie starts the whole entire spin-off of Annabelle, which obviously makes sense by the title. One of my favorite Annabelle movies. I'm gonna give this a 7 out of 10. It was pretty scary, and it kind of had you at the edge of your seat. Even though you kind of knew what's going on because the movies aren't released in chronological order, you understood. And this movie takes place 6 years after The Nun. Up next is straight up just Annabelle, and if you've seen this movie, you know that this movie is insane. Actually insane. The opening scenes are amazing, and I really, really love this movie. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. This movie takes place 2 years after Annabelle creation. Up next is my absolute favorite in the franchise, The Conjuring, the original Conjuring. This movie gets an absolute 10 out of 10, flying colors, my favorite in the franchise. And this movie is based 1 year after the Annabelle movie. Up next is Annabelle Coming Home, mid at best in my opinion, gets a 5 out of 10, but definitely something you should watch if you're interested in the universe and want to watch it in chronological order. Then takes one place after the Conjuring movie, so 1 year after. Up next is this movie right here. Every time I say it, I get flamed, but this movie is absolutely amazing. 6 out of 10, pretty scary. Definitely a little bit of a change up in the series, but still good. Up next is The Conjuring 2, the worst movie in my opinion out of the whole entire franchise. The Conjuring 2. Horrible. Walked out of the theater. Had to watch it a few years later. Not good. At all. And then the newest installment is The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which was okay. Wasn't great, it was just okay. I'll give it 4.5 out of 10. And all of those movies from The Conjuring all the way down were only 1 year based apart within the universe. Comment down below your favorite Conjuring movie and what other universe you guys want me to cover. Here's a list of the upcoming horror movies releasing in chronological order till the end of the year. Up first is The Elevator Game, releasing August 11th. This movie is based off of the urban legend to where you go to different floors and end up in a different universe, or a more or less different timeline, and things get absolutely insane. The movie comes out in 2 days and I'm very excited to see it. Jumping forward, we have The Nun 2, releasing September 8th. Now I know, a lot of people weren't very happy with the first Nun, but trust me, in Chris we trust. I love the Conjuring series in the franchise, and I guarantee you that this movie is going to be insane. Mark my words. Jumping a few weeks later, we have Saw X, probably my most sought after movie for this year, releasing September 29th. And trust me when I say, this movie is going to be insane. I can pretty much guarantee one thing. These traps are going to be the craziest we've ever seen. Jumping a few more weeks, we have Exorcist Believer, set to release on October 13th. I personally don't think it's going to be as good as the first one, but having 2 children be possessed by the same demon, mind-blowing. Then the film that everyone is excited for, the 3-hour-long PG-13 Five Nights at Freddy's. Now 3 hours is a little bit long for me. I am going to see it, trust me, because I was a Five Nights at Freddy's kid. But it is a little long. The movie's dropping October 27th. Comment down below what movie you're most excited to see this year, and follow for more.
This is why you should never dye your hair. Tabitha was a 17-year-old girl that would continuously dye her hair all the time. One night, she was hanging out with her best friend who decided they would dye their hair together. Approximately 20 minutes after she put the dye in her hair, she got up and went to the bathroom. She began pulling at her hair, screaming and vomiting before collapsing in agony on her friend's floor. Medics rushed her to the hospital where she unfortunately died due to an allergic reaction from the hair dye.
Scary phone numbers you should never call. Part 1. 1-000-000-000. This number is extremely cursed. A male voice will answer, telling you if you don't call 15 or more people, you will die.
Here are 5 horror movies you need to watch before Halloween, and the list is going to get progressively scarier. Having the first 2 films not be that scary, more like a warm-up. The 3rd film being pretty scary, the 4th film being very scary, and the 5th film in my opinion being the scariest. Up first is a movie called Would You Rather, where people sign up to go to this mansion, and they have no idea what they're going to be doing. Come to find out they're going to be playing a game called Would You Rather for money, which is something they all have in common. They all need money. We'll do absolutely anything to make it. This is a really good warm-up. Up next is The Strangers, home invasion horror. This movie is pretty scary. I know I put it at 2, but this movie gets you thinking. This movie makes sure that you locked all your doors and windows. This movie is absolutely fantastic. Husband and wife decide to go to their family's cabin in the woods, with obviously no one around because they're in the woods. Then they're stalked by 3 psychos, who just want to torture them. Movie's really good though. Definitely a lot scarier than the previous. In the 3rd spot is A24's Talk to Me. Now listen, this movie isn't that scary. Like, it's scary, it gets you thinking, because anything possession is scary. But some of the scenes, man, some of the scenes are crazy. And this will definitely get you jumping. This will definitely get your, make you start sweating a little bit, for sure. In the 2nd spot, we have Hereditary. This movie right here. Scary as hell. The whole entire time there was just this ominous feeling as you're watching it. And trust me, it doesn't disappoint. And one of the scariest movies in my opinion is The Possession. Not only is it based on a true story, but demonic possession is scary as shit. This little girl goes to this yard sale and finds this box that she likes. She wants to put all of her jewelry in it, but she can't seem to open it. Then one night, all of a sudden, it just opens, releasing a fucking demon. Butterflies, crickets, all this shit starts flying around her room, and she literally turns into an actual possessed demon girl. And the movie is fucking crazy. I saw it when I was a kid, and man, this shit is nuts. Trust me, this movie, trust me, anything demonic possession is scary as shit. I don't care what you think. That shit is real, and it's scary as fuck. But yeah, that's the list. If you could watch all these movies, I would say you're good. You can more or less watch anything.
Never say this word to Siri on your iPhone. A lot of people have said this to Siri, but now they're definitely regretting it. Well, it's actually not a word, but instead it's the number 108. That's because saying 108 to Siri will make your phone call your local police department. This is because 108 is the emergency number people call in India. And a lot of people have been doing this as a joke, and the police have reported receiving tons of prank calls because of this.
These are scary challenges that you should never do. Up first is Charlie Charlie. This challenge allows you to talk to a demon and ask it any questions you want. People who played this game said it was the scariest thing that they ever done, and their experience still scares them to this day. Next up is the Kylie Jenner Lip Challenge. This challenge seems very innocent at first, but it can cause some serious damage to your lips. So I don't recommend ever doing this. Next up is the Eraser Challenge. All you do for this challenge is get an eraser and rub it vigorously on your skin. It will then cut you and make you bleed and cause permanent scars. So if you don't want permanent scars, don't do this challenge.
The most horrifying Snapchats ever taken, part 2. Meet Maxwell Morton, a 16-year-old from Pennsylvania, who was accused of shooting one of his classmates in the face, then decided to take a selfie with the dead body and smiling and sending it to a friend, currently serving 15 to life.
Why is it everyone's nightly routine to close their blinds when living in the Appalachian Mountains? It's because when you think of the Appalachian Mountains, you think of skinwalkers. The skinwalker is a harmful witch that is able to use the hide of an animal that they've unalived and transform into it. There's also tons of screaming that happen in the Appalachian Mountains at night, which sounds crazy, I know. Some people think it's coyotes, other people think it's skinwalkers. But Chris, why would a skinwalker be screaming in the woods? Because they want to lure you there, that's what they do. They're able to mask their voice, trying to sound like somebody you may know, luring you into the woods to pretend that they're hurt. Sometimes they even act like a stranger. You'll just be driving down the road and all of a sudden hear someone yell for help. You get out of your car to help, and then you're cooked. Now, if I lived in the Appalachian Mountains, I'd be closing the blinds during the day, not just at night, but for sure especially at night, because imagine looking out your window and seeing something that you shouldn't. Now, yes, saying the term skinwalker of course brings them closer to you, but imagine seeing something that you're not supposed to and then it comes to your window. There's stories online of people discussing that they went camping in the Appalachian Mountains in a cabin and all of a sudden some random person came to their door, but they weren't a person. Me personally, the Appalachian Mountains are completely off my list, but that's why everyone who lives in the Appalachian Mountains closes and locks all of their windows and doors at night.
This is the scary urban legend about the man with the upside down face. This is the man with the upside down face. He is the most evil and threatening being, and he might be the worst. He is a ruthless entity who loves causing pain and death in order to feed his negative emotions of others' pain and suffering. The man with the upside down face always has a creepy grin on his face, and he wears a long gray coat. The man with the upside down face loves tragic events, but he is not able to directly cause them. However, he can influence other factors to help tragedies happen, whether that be causing somebody's brakes to stop working, or making a green light red or a red light green. His main goal is to cause misery and death, and watch as many people suffer as he can. His powers are stalking, invisibility, and mental manipulation. So if you ever see the man with the upside down face, just know something terrible is going to happen to you, or somebody around you. This is a scary story about the woods. There was a man who was hunting in the woods when he suddenly got lost. He walked aimlessly around the woods until he found a very old cabin. As he got closer to the cabin, he realized the door was wide open. He then looked inside and noticed it was completely empty, besides a bed and a fire burning in the fireplace. The man then decided to spend the night and hoped the owner did not come back. Lying on the bed half asleep, the man looked around and was surprised to see the walls covered in paintings. They were like family portraits, all painted in very good detail. The hideous faces seemed to look right at him, and their eyes seemed to follow him. He then pulled the blanket over his head and went to bed. When the hunter woke up in the morning, the cabin was soaked with sunlight. But when he looked around, he discovered that there was no paintings on the walls. There was only windows. This is the most scariest video on the internet explained. The video is called Dining Room or Nothing. In the video, a woman with a pale face stares at the viewer before saying something that we cannot understand. She then unnaturally drops her face into the bowl in front of her while very creepy piano music plays in the background. The video then plays back in reverse,
and now we understood what she said.
She said there is nothing. But the truth behind this video is to know what happens after death.
The woman dies only to come back and tell you that there is nothing.
Nothing after death, heaven, or hell.
She is stuck in a constant loop
and will never be able to escape.
Now here is the video of dining room or nothing. This is a scary story about the mother. There was a girl named Jill who always hung out with her mother, but she noticed her dad never hung out with them, nor did he even look at her mom or talk to her. This confused Jill, but she never asked him about it because she thought it wasn't any of her business. One day, Jill was playing with her mom in her room when her dad came in and said that dinner was ready, but he only looked at Jill and not his wife. When Jill came down to the table to eat, he finally got the courage to ask her dad why he doesn't talk to mom anymore. Her dad then looked at her with a weird expression on his face and looked very scared. Then said, "What do you mean?" Jill then said, "Whenever I'm with mommy and you come in the room, you never say anything to her." Her dad's face grew pale and he said, "Honey, your mom has been dead for your whole life. She died in the hospital giving birth to you." This is the creepy story about the dream. There was a man named Jim who was playing with his daughter while his wife watched from the front porch. Jim was so happy with his life and never wanted this moment to end. He then picked up his daughter and brought her inside while his wife followed and began to get dinner ready. When dinner was ready, they sat at the table, said a prayer, and began saying how much they loved each other. Jim then looked at his wife and his daughter and said, "I love you both so much." Jim then woke up in his white padded room and began crying hysterically, knowing it was just a dream, and knowing he would spend the rest of his life in an insane asylum for killing both his wife and daughter. This is the scary story about camping in the forest. 4 friends decided to go camping. There is 2 boys and 2 girls. When they got to their campground, which was near a highway rest stop, they unpacked their equipment and set up their tents. They made s'mores and told scary stories. After that, they got tired and decided to go to bed. In the middle of the night, one of the girls woke up and had to go to the bathroom. The scary stories they were telling made the girl scared of the woods, so instead of going to the bathroom there, she walked to the highway rest stop to use the public toilet. An hour went by and the girl was still not back. Her friends began to worry. Her friends then went to go look for her. When they got to the rest stop, they opened the toilet door and screamed in horror. The girl was sitting there on the toilet with her jeans around her ankles and a huge wooden stick stabbed right through her face. This is the scary story about the sister. There was a brother and sister named Alec and Taylor. One day, Alec was annoying Taylor by pulling her hair and poking her. Taylor began to get very mad and said, "If you do it again, I'm going to kill you." Alec didn't care and then pulled her hair again. Taylor then got up and walked away. Later that night, Alec was lying in his bed when he heard his door slowly opening. He then turned and saw his sister Taylor standing there with something in her hand. Before Alec could even say a word, Taylor jumped on him and stabbed him countless times and killing him. Taylor then called the police and turned herself in. Taylor was then sent to a mental asylum and will stay there for the rest of her life. Our timeline is completely messed up and it's going to blow your mind. Up first, for example, Eminem and Picasso were alive at the same time for 2 years. I don't know about you, but am I the only one that thought Picasso was around in the 1800s? Another one to wrap your head around is that the woolly mammoths were around at the same time the pyramids were being built. But just wait, this is just the beginning. Next, Rosa Parks lived long enough to see the first 2 Shrek movies in theaters. Like, what? Next, when the Declaration of Independence was being signed, nobody knew dinosaurs even existed. Think about that, like dinosaurs weren't even discovered yet. This next one is going to absolutely blow your mind. Cleopatra was born closer to the invention of the iPhone than to the actual pyramids being built. Finally, this next one makes 0 sense, but it's absolutely true. Oxford University was founded 300 years before the Aztec Empire. Like, how?
Here is the most haunted song ever made. And yes, I said that right, a haunted song. This song has been responsible for countless suicides. This song was also banned in England. Even the creator of this song killed himself. And the way he died is not a normal suicide. He jumped out of a window, survived, went to the hospital, and then killed himself with a wire. He did not want to be alive. The title of this song is called Gloomy Sunday. So take a guess what I'm gonna be doing today. I'm about to bump some Gloomy Sunday. If you don't want to hear it, just click off the video. But if you're like me and you want to hear what this song actually sounded like, let's do it. Okay, I'm on the song and apparently 10.4 million people have listened to it. The song sucks. It's just not a good song. This is why you should always know your mom's voice. A young girl named Casey is playing in her bedroom and folding some clothes. As she's playing in her room, she starts hearing plates being thrown around in the kitchen. Her not thinking anything of it continues to play. She then hears her mother call her name from the kitchen. Casey responds, "Coming," and begins walking down the hallway. As she is walking down the hallway, a hand pops out of the closet and grabs her. The hand pulls her in and Casey looks and it's her mother. She pulls Casey close and whispers in her ear, "Don't go in the kitchen, I heard it too." If you guys want to see more stories like this, make sure to like and follow.
3 facts that could save your life, part 5. If you ever find yourself trapped on a thin piece of ice and have no way of getting back to safe land before it breaks, lie down on your stomach and start slowly crawling back to exactly the way you came in on. That'll put less stress on the ice, making it almost impossible for it to break. Most people understand flags on shorelines, but the purple flag confuses most people. The purple flag being the warning that the most dangerous sea creatures are in that exact area, such as jellyfish, stingrays, and of course, sharks. If you ever feel like puking while you're scuba diving, vomit into the regulator. Do not remove it from your mouth. Removing it from your mouth will make it impossible to reapply it on your face, meaning that you're probably pretty far underwater, and once you remove that from your face, you probably will most likely drown. Like and follow for more videos. The Bob Ross Theory. Everyone knows who Bob Ross is. An extremely talented and upbeat painter, known for always being calm, cool, and collected, and of course always having a smile on his face. There's speculation that he was actually a serial killer because of this painting right here. This painting is called Happy Little Accidents. Looks like just a normal forest landscape, but this is where they found 5 female bodies, half eaten and completely unalived. This photo of this crime scene and the painting are extremely similar. My question to you guys is, could it just be a coincidence? Or could Bob Ross actually have been depicting his murders the whole time in pictures?
This is why you should never swallow your gum. Samantha Jenkins was a 19-year-old girl who would chew more than 14 pieces of gum a day and would not always spit it out. One day, she was rushed to the hospital after falling very ill. Her mother made a discovery that she had hundreds of gum wrappers all over the floor in her room. After doctors opened her up, they found several large lumps of gum inside her stomach. She died because mineral levels in her body fell fatally low, and doctors believed that the gum prevented it from being absorbed.
This is the story of how 2 kids witnessed a potential murder on Omegle. A 14-year-old kid and his friend Anthony were having a sleepover one night. When Anthony arrived at his friend's house, they both went upstairs onto the computer and onto Omegle. The boys matched up with a girl who seemed to be around the age of 18. The girl was sitting in a dark room with a blue light shining on her face. The boys were planning on being really mean and annoying. But then Anthony then said, "Who is that behind you?" Anthony's friend then looked behind the girl but saw nothing, so he thought Anthony was joking. The girl knew right away that Anthony was just messing with her. Anthony then insisted to the girl that there was someone behind her, so his friend played along with it. The girl turned around and saw nothing. Anthony's friend also saw nothing behind the girl. Anthony then said that there was someone hiding behind her bed. Anthony's friend then looked at Anthony as if he was joking, but Anthony was being 100% serious. All of a sudden, Anthony's friend then saw the same man that Anthony was seeing behind her bed. Part 2 will be out in a moment. This is the story of how 2 kids witnessed a potential murder on Omegle. Part 2. The boys both noticed a man by the back wall of the girl's room. The man was coming out from behind the bed, seemingly trying to be inconspicuous. Anthony's friend freaked out when he realized that Anthony wasn't joking about this. The boys told the girl that there was someone trying to sneak up behind her. Both of the boys thought it was probably just her brother trying to sneak up behind her and scare her. When the girl turned around, her reaction was not what the boys expected. The girl screamed at the top of her lungs and jumped back out of her chair onto her desk. The girl was kicking her feet at the man while he was approaching her. The girl's webcam started to shake as books fell off of her desk. The man in the room got an arm's reach of the girl. It revealed that the man was wearing a black mask. The man grabbed onto the girl and then started to scream, "Shut up." Anthony and his friend started to stare at each other, not knowing what to do. Stay tuned for part 3 because what happens next is horrifying. This is the story of how two kids witnessed a potential murder on Omegle, Part 3. The man stopped what he was doing and looked at the computer screen. The boy's screen then went black, and then a few seconds later they connected to another random person. Anthony and his friend turned off the computer and then processed what just happened. A few days later, Anthony sent his friend a link. Anthony's friend opened the link and it took him to a news website. This next part still haunts the kids to this day. On the website, there was a news reporter reporting an 18-year-old girl who had gotten murdered while being home alone. And the picture of the 18-year-old girl that the news had up on their site looked like the exact girl that they had saw the other day on Omegle. The two boys promised that they would keep it a secret from their parents. And after this, they never went on Omegle ever again. If everyone watching this could subscribe to my team YouTube channel, it will mean the world to me. The link is in my bio. These are photos taken right before death, Part 1. This right here is Jolie Callan. Jolie Callan was going on a hike with her ex-boyfriend, and when they had reached the top of the mountain, Jolie's ex-boyfriend took a photo of her right before he took out a gun, shot Jolie, and then pushed her off the cliff. Jolie's ex-boyfriend was sentenced to 52 years in prison. Shortly after taking this family photo right before going on a hike, the boy in the red was struck by a falling rock, and unfortunately, he died from impact. This right here is Jared Anthony Higgins, also known as Juice WRLD. This photo was taken on December 8th, 2019. Juice WRLD had boarded this private jet with a bunch of friends, but Juice WRLD's pilot noticed that he had a bunch of drugs and guns on board, so he contacted law enforcement. When the private jet landed in Chicago, Juice WRLD was immediately surrounded by police, and because of this, Juice WRLD took a bunch of pills and then died from a seizure. This is why being late isn't always a bad thing. One day, a middle-aged man had to make a business trip out of state. Since this business trip was out of state, the man thought it would be a great idea to take a plane. On the day of the business trip, the man woke up and he noticed that he was going to be very late for his plane flight. The man quickly got out of bed, packed his suitcase, and drove off to the airport. When the man arrived at the airport, he quickly went through security and got his plane ticket. After a minute of walking, the man then found his gate where his plane was boarding. The man noticed that there was no one sitting in his gate section, meaning they probably all boarded the plane. The man then quickly approached the gate attendant, giving his ticket to her. But the gate attendant told the man that he was 5 minutes late and that his plane had already been fully boarded. The man was extremely furious as cause he knew he had to buy another ticket. After a couple hours of waiting for his next plane to arrive, the man then got bad news. He got news that the plane he had been late for was hijacked and then crashed into the Twin Towers. This is why you should never prank call unknown numbers, Part 1. A 15-year-old kid named Anthony wanted to have a sleepover with his friend one night. It was a Saturday, and Anthony's parents wouldn't be home for the whole weekend. When Anthony's friend arrived at his house, they played video games basically all night until they got bored. Anthony's friend decided that he wanted to prank call some people, so he did it to a couple pizza places nearby. Nothing really happened until it was Anthony's turn to prank call a place. Instead of prank calling a food place, Anthony decided he wanted to prank call an unknown number. On Anthony's fourth attempt of prank calling random numbers, a guy finally picked up. He had a deep voice, and instead of saying hello, he said yeah. After 10 seconds of silence, Anthony finally spoke into the phone. This is how the conversation went. Sir, would it be okay if I could borrow one of the wheels from your car? What's your name, kid? My name is Bob. Are you sure it's not Anthony? Anthony hung up the phone right away. Part 2 is out. This is why you should never prank call unknown numbers, Part 2. Anthony was honestly shocked. He had no clue how this guy figured out his name. They hopped on their computer and did some research. They tried to figure out how it was possible to get someone's name through their phone number. They were left with no answer. Anthony wanted to call his dad, but he wasn't supposed to have friends over that weekend. Anthony and his friend turned on a movie to get what just happened off their mind. Anthony and his friend began to look at each other as soon as they saw that the front door was opening. Then the doorknob started to turn. It was only able to turn about halfway before the lock restricted it. Anthony turned off the TV, and his friend went over to the door to see who it was. Anthony spread the blinds open. There was a tall guy standing outside by the front door. The tall man turned his head, and now he was face to face with Anthony's friend. He slammed the blinds shut, and him and Anthony ran straight to the kitchen to hide. I'm sorry, but the timer ran out. Part 3 will be out in just a moment. This is why you should never prank call unknown numbers. Part 3. They heard the sound to the gate in the backyard opening. God damn it, I forgot to shut the back door, Anthony said. Anthony urged his friend to go shut the door. He made it to the hallway leading to the back door, and then froze. There was a silhouette standing right outside the back door. He opened the door and came inside. The friend tiptoed over to Anthony and motioned him to go upstairs. They made it to Anthony's room. They then pulled the door shut as quietly as possible, making sure they made no noise. They crawled under Anthony's bed. Thumps finally came up the stairs. The man was right outside the door that they were hiding in. Footsteps moved over to the closet, and then the closet was opened. The man found nothing in the closet. The man walked right over to the bed and stopped. Anthony felt like his heart was gonna explode at this point. Nothing but silence in the room now. I'm sorry, but the timer ran out. Part 4 will be out in a moment. This is why you should never prank call unknown numbers. Part 4. A couple minutes had passed by. Anthony and his friend almost thought that the guy wasn't even in the room at this point. The friend whispered into Anthony's ear saying, "Do you think we can make a run for it?" Anthony was about to answer, but then the most disturbing, memory-haunting scream filled his ears, as Anthony was seemingly dragged out under the bed by this man. The friend crawled out and saw that Anthony was struggling with the man. He desperately looked around for anything to use as a weapon. He settled with a screwdriver sitting on his nightstand. He hurried over to the man and drove the screwdriver into his back. The man let go of Anthony, releasing a scream of agony, giving Anthony and his friend time to get the hell out of the house. The boys ran out the back door and into the woods. After waiting a while, they made a run for the house. They heard the man chase after them, but when they made it into the house, they locked all the doors this time. They never saw the man again.
First games you should never play. Part 5. The Answer Man. In this game, you can ask any question you want. Stand in a circle and call the person to your left, and make sure you all do it at the same time. If it works, everyone should get a busy signal except one person. That person whose phone call went through went to the Answer Man. You are now free to ask him any question you want, but just know, he will also ask you a question. If he doesn't like your answer, you'll feel a random pain in a certain part of your body, which later you will lose. To win the game, you have to tell him you must go. It may take a few times, but you have to make sure you do this, or the game will never end. Like and follow for more.
So this photo is the reason you shouldn't put your feet up on the dashboard of a car. In 2007, Christopherkiely had an airbag deploy on her at 120 miles an hour. She was sitting passenger with her feet up on the dash, and when the airbag went off, her knees went right into her skull. Obviously, this led to a brain injury. Her 2 front teeth also fell out, but she lived, thankfully. She lived without a forehead for about 2 years until surgeons fitted a ceramic forehead into her skull. She had near constant headaches, and she developed gallstones because of the medication she was on. After they fitted a ceramic plate into her forehead, they injected fat from her stomach into it so it could look more natural. This is her today, so she looks very normal now. And of course, because she's in good spirit, she says her ceramic forehead is designer because it was made in Italy. She also spent a considerable amount of time educating people on why they shouldn't put their feet up on the dashboard. Because if you do, you could end up like this. And you might not be so lucky. So, if you get anything from this video, stop putting your feet up on the dash. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below, and as always, these videos are for informational and entertainment purposes only.
This is why you should never eat spicy food. In 2019, a 51-year-old man was working as a wedding planner at a popular wedding venue just outside of London. While he was setting up, he was approached by one of the chefs that asked him to sample a dish. Immediately after trying it, he could not breathe and was rushed to urgent care. Upon arrival, he died from asphyxiation because he could not breathe. After examining his throat, the burns were so severe that the doctor compared it to burns of somebody who was in a house fire.